Hello and welcome to Podsongs, where we interview inspirational people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. Today, my guest is Dick Forsman, and my co-host is the musician Ruben Hein.
Hello.
Hello, Ruben.
Ah, yes. Sorry, I had some interface issues, but now it's fine. Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great.
I'm so relaxed. I've just been watching your documentary.
Oh, oh God. With a sobby bird watcher.
It's wow! What a spectacular trip.
It was absolutely amazing. Actually, sorry, I'm gonna just put my phone away, so I'm all set for my. All right, there I am. Yeah. No, yeah. You actually watched it, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
actually halfway through. I'll be honest. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the sobbing part will come later on.
Oh,
But-
okay. All right.
So now I already told you. So yeah,
You've ruined the ending.
I've ruined the ending. Sorry. But yeah, it was amazing. Yes, it's already 2.5 years ago. Strangely enough, because it was just before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when we sailed back to South America, then the former U.S. president, whose name will not be mentioned, closed the all the air. How do you say it? The airways. So then it was a bit of a challenge if I actually would get back home, but eventually I did.
Wow, you just got back in time.
Yeah, right in time. We were one of the last flights out of Argentina. Yeah, it was a bit stressful.
Because then you're going to make this documentary. You're going to do it in all enter it in all documentary film festivals, and they must have all been shut down. It must have been frustrating.
Yeah, but we also took our time to make it, so we weren't in a rush. And to be honest, at first it wasn't the plan to make a documentary. At first, we just wanted to make it we wanted to make a short one, like 15 minutes. And then eventually it escalated quickly. And
it could have been longer. No, I mean, sure, you had so much material.
Yes, we had. And to my, we're not recording yet, are we?
I just dive straight in, yeah. But
oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, then I won't. I'll leave all my comments. No,
okay.
No, but when you look back at it, you always think like, we could have done this or we could have done that. But I'm very happy to have made this. So, and it was a very nice asset to accompany the record.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So part of the record was sketched on board. But in all honesty, I didn't, when the whole ship was surrounded with icebergs and albatross and whales and penguins and those incredible
no time. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna sit somewhere deep down in my hut where it's dark and gloomy.
Yeah.
And be all intellectual on myself.
I love the shots of you. I thought you were working in the cabin. It looked like you had set up a home studio there.
I did, but I didn't do that during the day. So I did it evenings when it was dark, and then I could write down or could sketch a little bit. So the first sketches were made there, and then I finished it off here. And that.
Okay.
So, but before we dive in, since we already dove in, but thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. Thanks for accepting.
It's an honor.
Well, it's likewise. I'm really, actually, we have a mutual friend in common.
Which is?
Paul Williamson.
Oh, serious?
Yeah.
What's the connection?
He produced my first record.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When was this?
This is 2005.
Ah, wow. So
Yeah.
that's before I worked with him.
Yeah.
And are you still in touch?
Not for a while. No, we kind of drifted out, but
Yeah.
because I lived in Amsterdam for 10 years.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yeah, in the noughties, and then I went traveling, and then I moved to Italy. Been in Italy for 10 years.
As one does.
Yeah, well.
And you're in Italy right now? Or
I am. Yeah.
So where are you based?
Underneath, about an hour and a half south of Napoli. It's
quite far down south, actually.
Yeah. It's the real Italy. Yeah.
The real Italy.
Yeah.
I'm a bit. Well, you know Amsterdam.
Oh yeah.
You know Dutch weather. And I can say it's the lighting in the room, but I can see the difference in your. I mean, I look pale and fatigued, and you look very healthy. So
you went to Antarctica to get a suntan?
Actually, I did.
You have a beautiful office space now. I saw in the video office that are you looking out the window at the
Yeah, actually, I to be honest, I moved. That was my former studio.
Okay.
So after I got back from Antarctica, we moved out of Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
So we went to Haarlem, which you probably know.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit to the west. And so I got a new studio here, and I'm very sorry for the mess you see.
No, it looks like you're a hardworking musician. If it was immaculate, I knew you wouldn't be doing any work.
No. It's far from immaculate. I can show you around it. There's the grand over the. Can you see it? Over.
Yeah.
There.
Got it.
But I share this room, and we have a bit of a drum cabin built there. But I share this room with two others. So.
So are you working on a new record at the moment then?
Actually, at the moment, I'm working on. Can you hear me? Well,
yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm working on a new EP. So Oceans, the previous record, came out in February, I think. Yeah. No. January. Sorry. No, February. Sorry. But of course, it was post-COVID. So we were doing gigs, and we were planning on doing more gigs, but it was hard.
Yeah.
Even actually, I found the post-COVID period the hardest, actually, because then suddenly everything started running again, but then it wasn't as fruitful as you'd hoped. Or as it was before COVID, simply because people had to get used to it again. And so did we, actually, and the whole industry had to get used to it again. So so then this summer I thought, well, fuck it. I'm sorry, can I say that?
No, yes, of course.
Okay, good. Let's start a new, let's just start writing again. So right now I'm finishing off a 5-track EP. Which is kind of nice because there's not too much pressure behind it, so we're not in a rush, and we'll see when it's finished.
Yeah,
are you still writing and active?
Oh yeah. Well, I had my best times in lockdown. I'm like you. I write best in isolation. So it was a big disappointment to me when everything opened up again. Yeah.
And what are you working on currently? Next to the podcast,
a baby. That's the only thing.
Oh, yeah. Congrats! Wait a second. Are you working as in the baby is there?
Yeah, we've done the fun bit. Now we have the slog. Yeah.
How old is he or she?
4 months.
Oh God! Oh, you're right in the mix. Oh, and it's the first one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome. You entered the new world.
I feel a camaraderie here,
Yeah, well, we have 3.
Wow.
So we kind of forgot how our our biology lessons from high school. And it was like, oh shit,
3's a lot.
hey,
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, but they're not 4 months anymore. So I understand uh, the state you're in, which is, I assume, assumption is the mother of all fuck ups, but I assume it's very excited, full of love,
Mm-hmm.
extremely tired.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A mixture of all those. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a he or she? Sorry.
A he.
A
Yeah.
he. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. What's his name?
Nicola.
Nicola.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's life changing. I mean, everyone says that, but it's not until you realize it and you
Yeah.
actually have it. You know, that there's life. There's one of those things. There's a before and after. You know, there's a before and after COVID.
Yeah.
And there's a before and after baby. And
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's great. I'm enjoying it, but yeah, really, time management is key now.
Yeah. It's a whole. In the beginning, actually, when I remember when our oldest was born, I remember it actually gave me very solid time slots, which I
Right.
kind of liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was basically everywhere all the time, just butter flying around,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Musician.
and then suddenly there's a very strict time frame of feeding and sleeping and stuff like that. And then okay, I got 5 hours. These are mine. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I got very how do you say it? Efficient for a very brief moment, for a very brief period of time.
Yeah, I'm doing better with less sleep. I didn't realize before I slept too much. You know, I always wanted to get by with 6 hours, and now I'm having to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it will get better.
Yeah, but 3. I mean, that's how far apart are they?
They're 7, turning 8 in January, 6, and turning 4 in.
So every 2 years. Yeah, that's
No. Yeah. Actually, so three kids within 4 years.
So dealing with a 2-year-old and that's a.
Yeah, when the middle man was born, the oldest was 19 months.
That's I can't imagine that. Wow.
Well, I mean, yeah, you just do.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I remember we're drifting off it, but I remember saying to a friend, which I still regret, I said that his girlfriend was pregnant, and then he was making remarks about being a father. And then I said to him, "No, we're holding him dear." He said that, dude, you have no idea. You have no. And 3 months later, he called me. He said, "Dude, you were absolutely right. I had no idea," which I felt a bit guilty. Like I shouldn't have said that's a mean thing to say. I didn't mean it that way, but like you said, there's a before and there's an after.
Yeah. I'm in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting back to bird watching then, I mean, when I contacted Dick to ask him to be on the show, he was very flattered and very surprised.
Yes.
So what made you pick Dick Forsman, the bird watcher, as your guest?
Actually, it's a podcast, so you can't see it. But actually, this book, it's a book called Flight Identification of Raptors of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. So for those who are listening right now, next to the fact that I'm, and I'll explain this to Mr. Forsman as well later on, but next to the fact that I'm a musician, there's another big love of mine, which is bird watching. And I'm very happy I have those two passions. I don't like the word passion because it's always a bit it's an overused word, but I will never get bored. So right now I'm in my studio, which is in a which is on the edge of a nature reserve, and I always have my binoculars with me. I'm a bird watcher. I like nature and I like birds. And Mr. Forsman made a book on as right what it says, flight identification of raptors. So raptors, I think, for most bird watchers, when they begin as a child, the thing that strikes them the most is probably raptors. So birds of prey, we're speaking of. So I assume most of the listeners are not deeply into bird watching. So I'll try to also in the conversation later, I'll try to
I would appreciate that. Yeah. If you could
not dive into detail immediately. But I'll try to how do you say that?
Yeah, lead us in gently. We're going on a journey with you into your passion, which is something we know nothing about. This is the beauty of the show. This is why I opened it up to other musicians, is because I'm a pretty broad mind, but I have a narrow set of interests when you think about it. I mean, really. So I never talk. Music. Well, yeah, I mean, and everything else everyone is into, but yeah, I'd never have a guest about birdwatching because I wouldn't know what questions to ask. I wouldn't be able to hold a conversation,
Well, the funny thing, when you asked me to join on this podcast, I was thinking, okay, so what's in it for me? And that sounds a bit
that's a bit selfish.
Yeah, it sounds very selfish. But as in I can invite anyone I like. And
yeah, anyone in the world.
Anyone in the
world.
Big
ask, isn't it? Like, who would you ask?
So Barack Obama couldn't make it. Okay.
Yeah, we tried. Sorry about that.
So I wanted to learn something, and this is a passion of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And this man is the most renowned specialist in birds of prey. I was always intrigued. I've always been intrigued by birds of prey. And like I said before, the raptors is probably for most kids who start watching birds like I did when I was a young kid. Raptors are the most, how do you say it?
Well, dangerous, deadly,
powerful, cool. They have this look in their eyes, which is a bit, not angry, but powerful.
Yeah.
They have these claws, and they soar, and they're big. Some of them are big, some of them are small, but they're very fast. And so that's where for me, it started there. And the funny thing is, you said I wouldn't know what to ask a bird watcher.
Yeah.
And that's probably what most people think. So what about birds? But when you dive in, there's a whole new world. And it's not just for birds. I mean, it's also if you dive into topics in nature, there's so much to discover and so much to learn. And it's so interesting. And it's so inspirational for me as a musician. But yeah, so then I thought, well, look, why not ask him? I mean, I look in this book quite a lot. Every now and then I think I saw this raptor today, but I'm not sure what it was, or there's something I want to know about it. So when I'm at home and I have nothing to do, I just, how do you call it when you do it like this?
Browsing, yeah, flicking through. Browsing or flicking through?
Yeah, flicking through. I flick through, and then I see a picture of a bird, and then I just read about it or look at pictures. And so it's as you can see, it's also a bit warm.
Yeah.
But I'm also very curious. I mean, within the birders world, which is not a very big. I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger. The scene. But Mr. Forsman is a bit of a myth.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he made these. Also made another book on raptors, And he's friends of mine would even before the whole social media thing, they would make a picture of a bird they wouldn't know, and then they would send it via email to him. So, can you help us out? He would be this beacon of information.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was just a bit like, oh, why not? Let's have a chat. That's
Yeah,
actually.
because I tried to research him, but he's not on social media. I mean, he's retired now.
Well, he is on Instagram.
Is he?
He is, yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
He is on Instagram. But other than that, he has a website which is not very much updated. The last blog was 2019 or something like that.
Saw that, yeah.
Sorry.
Gesundheit.
Thanks.
But I managed to see a few videos of him, and he says he's seen 100,000 raptors, he estimates, in his life. So he's been. I mean, I didn't know that.
I think he probably saw more.
Wow.
Well, simply because of the fact but I will ask him later on, but simply because of the fact that if you're on the right spot during migrating season, and this is a migrating season, I will explain it later.
Okay.
Or I can explain it now.
I didn't know they migrated.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Raptors.
Oh, yes, definitely. So if you're in the right spots, you can see thousands and thousands of raptors soaring over, heading south or north, depending on the season. So just to inform you a little bit about
warm me up.
Migration. So birds migrate. They do it all over the world. Here in Europe, they migrate generally from north to south and south to north. So in spring, they come from the south to breed up here in the north. And in autumn, they fly back again to the south. So depending on the species, they travel far or not so far. For example, there is very tiny warblers, which are tiny birds, which they sing very.
I love the warblers.
Yeah. And they, some species, they travel all the way from Scandinavia all the way to southern or sub-Sahara Africa, so the southern part of Africa. Or barn swallows, for example, do the same thing. You see them in summer. And
I know swallows are pretty famous for this. I've been clued up on that.
Raptors do the same. Some further than others, and some stick around. But then you see, for example, it's possible you see the same species of bird in each time of year. So in summer, you'd see, let's say, a robin.
Okay.
And in winter, you'd see a robin as well, but it's not the same robin. So they migrate.
You're kidding me. You're kidding.
No, but they.
I'm seeing the robin from the north coming down.
They winter here, for example, the Netherlands, and then in summer or in the next spring they go back up north. So it's not per se they all go to the same spot. Some species do. Some species all go to, I don't know. So raptors do the same. Which makes this time of year, so right now when we're recording, it's the 26th of October, which is sort of the end of the peak of the migrating season. But it's always an interesting part of the year for birders because while migrating, some species do get lost. So every now and then you'd see a rarity passing by because it just lost its way. Now, the reason birds migrate is because, in summer, here the days in the north are long and there's an abundance of food. So they have more time during the day to feed their chicks, and there's enough food for them to feed them. and raise them in a relatively short period of time. Then they go back because the food is running out here. There's a abundance of food in the south, but by the time it becomes spring here in the north again, they migrate back up north because there's a lot of concurrents in the south. They go back here. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that was a great warm up. I'm getting into it now. That's really helped me build the base there. And are there many raptors in the Netherlands?
Yes. Especially migrating season, you can see a lot of different species. There's falcons, there's hawks, there's harriers, there's one eagle. No, that's not true. Actually, there's 2 eagles breeding actually at the moment.
Oh, okay.
And I think Mr. Forsman will do so as well, but we'll try to not get all scientific on your ass right away.
Well, I want you to have fun. I want you to enjoy it. So,
yeah,
don't hold back on our account, me and the listeners. If you want to go for it,
yeah.
you want to go in depth on it.
No, I just also want to get to know the
man behind the binoculars.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and of course I want to learn.
Yeah.
So, but I hope it's also, I think we'll just go along as we're doing right
as
now.
we're doing that. We can all chat and we can all talk our heads off. So, so your mother got you into bird watching? Yeah, did she buy you that book?
No, actually, a friend of mine did.
Okay.
No. It's this one is from 2016. So.
Oh, okay.
I was already grown up,
but
no, my mother got me into it, and she saw that I enjoyed it because I grew up in a little village with a lovely garden which housed a lot of life, and so I was in the garden a lot. If I wasn't behind the piano, I was in the garden, just running around with my binoculars.
Wow.
And one day she took me to this nature reserve, which was down the road, a couple of miles down the road. And then there was even more to see and to discover. I'll also explain it to Mr. Forsman later on.
But it's great when you get something from your parents like that, an interest or a hobby. It's almost feel like they're passing the baton of something. You get their energy to carry with you through life, I've found.
Yeah, I'm very glad they recognized my enthusiasm for it. Imagine they wouldn't have given me a binoculars or lended me their old binoculars.
Yeah.
Or imagine she wouldn't have taken me to that nature reserve. That became a thing between my mother and I.
And what about the piano? Who gave you that?
Well, the piano was already there. My sister played the piano. My father played recorder.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he will not listen to this podcast, but
no, but did you? So you got the music from them as well? I mean, you got the two things.
Yeah. So my father had hopes I would play the cello, so he could have this classical trio.
A string quartet in the home. It's fortune on concert tickets. Yeah,
exactly. But then I discovered Ray Charles.
I saw that in the documentary. Yeah.
So then it went all AWOL from there.
But you're still a conductor as well and a classical jazz.
Yeah,
you're not just a simple pop artist. I mean,
I wouldn't consider myself a conductor. I was an artistic leader for an orchestra for 2 years, which I really enjoyed. But they all laughed at me when I was doing the conducting. They were all just looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And
I bet it was great fun though.
It was great fun, but it's a whole It's a technique of its
Okay.
own. And I mean, I'm not the best music reader.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I
That's
read,
tricky. Mhm.
but you know, it was every now and then I would say to the horn section, okay, now you go, guys. You should be playing right? You know, they were like, no, it says this and this, and I, okay, well,
And that was
do that.
that was children, yeah, talking to you like that.
And they were not, well, they were young adults, so between 18 and 25. But they
Okay.
were all conservatory, highly schooled musicians.
I just thought
So,
it'd be like if it was 12-year-olds, that would just
no, then I would get away with it. No, I wouldn't get away with it. So it was a lot of, how to say it? A lot of, what's the English word? A lot of pretend.
yeah,
How do you
yeah.
say it?
Fake it till you make it.
Oh,
So-
definitely. I'm not sure if I made it, but
Mm.
I faked it a lot.
Okay. I just got a message from Dick. He's just
Yeah.
downloading a new version of Chrome. So
Ah,
yeah, I don't think he's done these interviews before. He told me so.
oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's a coup to catch him. It's like I feel like I'm sighting a rare bird trying to talk to him. You know, it's like we're sitting there and here he is again. You know, we're sitting there in camouflage gear, waiting for the Dick Forsman to come in.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hello,
Yes.
Dick.
Yes. We
Right.
can.
Magic.
Great. Woo.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm pleased to be with you. In the end, eventually, this was difficult, but it was an old version of Chrome I had, and it wouldn't allow the audio to work. So
Okay. Well, Jack, you want to kick it off, or you?
Sure. Well, this is Ruben, the musician who's wants to be inspired. He's inspired already, but you're going to take him up to another level with this conversation, and then we're going to create a beautiful song inspired by this conversation.
Well,
Great.
not right now, right?
Oh no,
Okay.
God, Jesus!
Well, okay. Well, you know, I'm set up, but not that.
You're ready to
Set
go.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, sort of. So, Mr. Forsman, I think I owe you a bit of an explanation.
please, yes, accepted.
So I'm a musician based in the Netherlands, currently in Haarlem, and I have two passions. As a young kid, I started off as behind the piano. I got infected with the Ray Charles virus, and I listened to a lot of jazz and I listened to a lot of pop music, and then well, that evolved. But there was another passion as a young kid, which was given to me by my mother, and that was bird watching. And that's something that music never left. To be honest, bird watching didn't survive puberty. But then it got back in my 20s. I just turned 40 this year. And I have to say, I'm a fanatic bird watcher. I'm not the best bird watcher. But at a certain point, your book was given to me. This one. You know it. Flight identification of raptors of Europe, North Africa, and in the Middle East.
I thought it would have been this one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I haven't got that one, I must admit. But that's a new version of the 98 book, right?
This one that I showed you, this is one I wrote in Swedish in 84, and it was translated into Dutch in 93.
Oh, wow. No. Wow. Well, 93. I was
I know.
11. But at a certain point, a friend of mine gave me this. And ever since, well, you can see it's a bit worn. I've been, what was the word again, Jack?
Browsing.
Browsing through it a lot on every silent evenings. And when I was invited to make this podcast, I was given the opportunity to invite anyone I liked. And then I thought, well, why not Mr. Forsman? Because here in the Netherlands or amongst birders, and it's probably everywhere else in Europe, you're a bit of a myth, I have to admit.
Oh, thank you. Glad to hear.
And a beacon of information when it comes to birds, but when it comes to raptors as well. And then I thought, well, what's it's about inspiration. Nature is a big inspiration for me. Birds are a big inspiration for me. But I also, if we do this podcast, I also want to learn something. So that's when I thought, well, why not invite Mr. Forsman if he's around. And also, I know you're on Instagram. Your website, latest blog is from 2019, I think. So I was also just curious. So who is the infamous, the living myth, Mr. Dick Forsman? So that's how it got to you.
Okay.
And actually, I also just want to thank you for making these amazing books, because I never get bored by them. And I learned so much from them, even though I half of the birds, or more than half the birds, I've never seen before. So that's another thing. I want to go to Oman with you one day, but that's of a later cause.
Yeah, you have plenty of years ahead of you.
Yes.
I'm sure about myself.
Yeah.
Very particular that you've been inspired by the books and by the birds.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's actually, I did write down a couple of questions, but also I think we have to, since most of the podcast listeners are probably not that well known or not how do you say, well informed when it comes to birds or when it comes to raptors. So I think we have to sort of, before we immediately dive into the mold of a juvenile pallid harrier, let's first take it step every step at a time. But why for you? Why raptors for you? I know it for myself, but
yeah, but in my case, this is a question I'm often asked, and I cannot give an answer. It just happened. It's been like that all my life.
Mhm.
I know I've always been a keen drawer. I mean, drawing and painting.
Yeah.
And it's always been birds. From the age of 3 and 4, I have drawings made of peacocks and then pheasants, but very soon eagles, and hawks and falcons and anything. And I remember I was living then as a kid in central Helsinki.
Yeah.
Downtown, the old part of Helsinki. And I used to draw life-size eagles on the pavement with a big piece of white chalk. And the guy who was sort of looking after our block, he didn't like them, so he washed them away every day.
Yeah.
But around the corner, I had a friend living there. And the guy who was taking care of their property, he was friendly, so he left them. He thought they were really nice.
Yeah.
These are one of the first memories I have of raptors. And then,
But how did you? I mean, as a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, you drawing peacocks and then quite soon raptors. You must have seen them somewhere. Did your parents?
No, just pictures. I just saw pictures of raptors in the books. Maybe a stuffed bird somewhere. In a museum or at the zoo or something, but I don't have any recollection of something really happening in true life
I know.
that sparkled my interest. So I can't explain why raptors, and it's always been. I mean, I'm interested in birds in general, of course.
Yeah.
And I've been on the Finnish Rarities Committee for years, and I was chair of the. And then you have to cope with all kinds of birds.
Yeah.
But in the back of my head, raptors have always been, above all other birds.
Yeah.
It's just something I can't explain, and I still now today. Well, today is a gloomy day and some drizzle and low cloud. Not today, but yesterday. I went out every day when it's nice. I go out, and at this time of year, I'm trying to find golden eagles because
Yeah.
that's, the really top predators, which I really enjoy watching. And they're migrating through my part of the country now. So I'm out looking for golden eagles.
Did you see any yesterday?
Two, yes.
Oh.
I have a hill with strong westerly winds. The wind hits the slope of the hill, and it creates an updraft. And the eagles like to hang on this wind. There's like a cushion of air blowing up in the air, and they're just hanging motionless above this ridge. And I'm hiding there. And they don't know I'm there. So sometimes they come very, very close. And mostly it's white-tailed eagles nowadays, but golden eagles, every now and then, if you're lucky, you see a few.
So for the listeners, you said something which is a very familiar term for me, but this part of year, it's migrating season. I was just talking to Jack and explaining to him a bit about migration. But there's an interesting thing you said about the hill.
Yeah,
because raptors are famous for soaring. Can you and the way they use the elements of wind and thermal. How do you say it? Thermal. What's the word for it?
You can circle or soar.
Yeah. No, but when heat, hot air rises, what's
thermal?
Thermic. Thermic. Yeah, thermic. That's the word. Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? How do they use it? What makes it so special? I know it for myself, but what makes it so special for you?
Well, it's migration time now, and usually thermals are created only when the sun is shining and heating up the ground.
Yeah.
And then you get hot air above the ground, which starts to rise through the colder layers of air above it.
Yeah.
Birds find these bubbles. They're like bubbles of hot air in the middle of just colder air.
Yeah.
And as soon as they feel the hot rising air in the wings, they start to ride on the bubble, going around the edges of the bubble, going higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
Now at this time of year, the sun is, it stays very low.
Yeah.
Because in southern Finland, we are quite far north. And it's not warm enough. It doesn't heat up the ground anymore.
Yeah.
So the birds have to rely on either strong winds, like the eagles do, and especially they like to ride on the wind. It's like, a surfer riding on a wave.
Yeah.
Birds ride on the strong winds.
Yeah.
And where the wind hits a hill like this, it converts the angle of the hill converts the air to go straight up. And that's why the birds can hang motionless on top of this constantly rising flow of air.
Yeah. It's maybe good to say that the reason they do this is because it's to save energy, basically.
Exactly. They don't have to flap. They can hang in this wind for an hour or more without even moving. I mean, they move the wings slightly to just compensate for the, sometimes there is a gust of wind, strong gust, and then it slows down.
Yeah.
But they can sort of play with the wind because they can feel it in the wings.
Yeah. And it's also maybe good to say that that's something I always find so amazing to see when you see, for example, you were talking about the thermal, hot air rise. Again, this is a little bit, this also for Jack, so he can keep up with it. But so they circle up, especially the larger birds of prey.
Mm-hmm.
Do they all do? Actually, for example, because I know sparrowhawks, that's a smaller size.
Yes.
They also soar, but for example,
all species, all species do it. Yes.
So
I mean, some species are more prone to soaring. We're talking about the long-winged birds like buzzards,
Yeah.
eagles, and they use this when they're migrating. So they basically go up in a thermal. They reach maybe 1 kilometer, and then they start to glide, and they just glide in the direction where they're migrating until they hit the next thermal, and then they go up again. So I know from studies in Israel, for instance, made on lesser spotted eagles, which migrate through in, a few 100,000 every autumn, every spring. But they rise to about 900 meters, and then they start to glide, just falling all the time, of course, because there's nothing keeping them up. So they come slowly, lower, lower. And when they come to about 600 meters altitude, then they find a new thermal, and they go up again to about 900 or 1,000. So they go like this, up and gliding down, up and gliding down, all the way from Europe to, tropical Africa.
Yeah, it's amazing. I find the whole migrating in the bird migration is the most incredible phenomenon, I think. There is also when we're here in the Netherlands, we don't have golden eagle, unfortunately. Well, it happens to it passes by maybe every couple of years. Yeah. But where I live in Haarlem, which is next to Amsterdam, which is in the dunes.
Yes.
And when there's a strong easterly wind, for example, all the birds which are migrating, they get blown towards the sea, but they don't want to cross open water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you're in the dunes and you're top of the dune, they all pass over all kinds of species, and you actually see them migrate from, well, let's say Finland or Sweden or Scandinavia, all the way to tropical Africa. And you see these tiny little finches or whatever, and you see them fly over on their way, which is, when you zoom out, it's the most astonishing phenomenon. Today I got a report from Bartild Godwit, I think, which is a wader bird, which traveled from Alaska to, I think, New Zealand.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is 13,000 kilometers in 11 days without stopping. Now, you're talking about, well, how much does this bird weigh, Mr. Forsman?
I would say maybe 300 grams or something like that.
300 grams, 30,000 kilo. I mean, it's insane. Anyways.
And they lose, in that flight, they lose 40% of their body weight.
Yeah.
Because they're all stored in the breast muscles and in the fat. And they're using up all the energy that they have stored during that long flight. But then they have, of course, all winter to restore those layers of fat and energy for the spring travel up north again.
Yeah. 11 days. Just
yeah, 11 days. So that's I don't know how fast that is, but
well, they can make. I mean, some birds they go very, very high up. They go to 2 or 3 kilometers, and there you have the jet streams. And if they hit the right jet stream, they're just blown away in the right direction. But of course, sometimes they end up in the wrong place. I mean, on the other side of the globe where they shouldn't be because of these jet streams. But anyway, they aid from very strong and high winds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I told you in advance, Jack, if you dive into the topic,
it is interesting.
Then there's these little details. Well, this is not a detail, but then you go, what? This is actually happening on our planet as well at the same time as we are living? Yes, it is.
But then they find the same place every year. I mean, how much?
Yes.
Is that true?
Well,
that's amazing, because the birds wintering in tropical Africa, for instance, in my garden, I have nest boxes and pied flycatcher, one small songbird. It's quite common breeding bird here. And the same name comes back to my garden every year after having been to somewhere, the jungles in Central Africa, West Africa, for the winter. They find exactly the same spot, and the same birds find exactly the same spot in the south where they're wintering, exactly the same area. So they know And they know the route, the shortest way between A and B.
Tiny little birds. That's incredible.
Yes.
And they weigh like 10 grams.
That's 2 sugar lumps. 10 grams, 2 sugar lumps.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So this is I find migration that's maybe the most spectacular part about bird watching, especially this part of year. It's everybody is on its wings, on its edge,
Yeah.
looking out for rarities or something special. What is there? Earlier you said there's not a special moment where it started off, which you can remember. But if you would, is there a defying moment in your bird watching? I mean, everybody has these stories when you dove into a topic like this. But is there a defying moment for you where you thought, this is it. This is, for example, for me, I do kind of remember some of the moments as a kid. For example, seeing a marsh harrier for the first time. And since then, harriers have this special thing in my head. But I remember telling my mother, "Look, there's a marsh harrier," and she said to me, "How do you know it's a marsh harrier?" And I said, "Well, I've been reading all these books, and I was 9 maybe or 10, and I've been looking at all these books. So I knew exactly what it looked like." But for example, also seeing, I made a trip to South Africa several years ago, and I remember seeing a black harrier, which is
that's
the most elusive, beautiful raptor you can imagine. It's all black, and then underneath there's white, and it's rare. It's endangered, but it's and I remember standing on this hill, and then it suddenly popped up, and the sun was setting, and it's still a memory of mine, which it was very defying for me at the moment. Do you have something like that?
Well, there were many incidents like that in my life, because let's say when I was 13, I've always wanted to get close to these birds of prey. So when I was 13, I found a nest of a common buzzard.
Yeah.
And I took one chick from the nest. I raised it all summer.
You took it. Sorry, I didn't hear that. You took it.
Yes, I took it and I kept it as a pet. And I released it in September when the migration started. And after that, I had several raptors. I had license to keep them because I was studying biology, and I used these nestlings to measure the growth, the wings and weight and stuff, like how much they were eating and so on. And I had 2 goshawks. I had a merlin, and for instance, the goshawk was, I went into the forest for a walk, and the goshawk was free. I was walking on the path, and the goshawk was following me from tree to tree to tree behind me, like 10, 15 meters behind me. Wherever I was going, the goshawk was following, just like a dog. And it was amazing to find that you can create such a relation to a bird. It's okay. People know that you can relate to a dog or a cat or a horse or something like that. But a bird that is free to fly whenever it wants, it could have left me. But it was so attached to, because I was feeding it. So, it was not flying on me. And also that one I released in September. It was free to go. I ringed it and then it was gone. And these, of course, have given me a certain understanding for the birds of prey. And now, with all the books written, maybe I still have a few to do. Maybe, I hope so. But I try to get inside the head of the raptors. This is what I really want, to know how they're thinking, what they're planning to do next. so that I can be there and waiting for them when they do the next move.
Yeah, this is something very interesting. I'm interested in as well, in a way that I had several occasions where not like this, but you where you actually can look an animal in the eye
Mm-hmm.
and you see more than just an animal,
Mm-hmm.
which made me realize there is well, there's an interesting it's a bit philosophical maybe, but there's an interesting movement right now. There's a non-human rights movement, which is where they say that there's such thing as a non-human person.
Yes.
So saying animals should have, or actually any living organism should have the same rights on this being a user of this planet as humans do.
Mhm.
Do you when this happened with the goshawk, um, do you think there's for example, do you think they have emotion, or do you think they have character, or do you think you've seen so many? What do you?
I would say yes to both questions. I can, well, I believe I can see the difference in an animal's eyes or a bird's eyes if the bird is okay or if it's not okay. For instance, now with all these photographs on Instagram,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pictures of lions, for instance.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can see when you look at the eyes of the animal that it's, well, maybe a captive animal or a pet animal. It's not a wild, free living animal because the look in the eyes is not the same.
Yeah.
And you can say, you look at a mouse or a squirrel. Sometimes people post pictures and they say, "Oh, I got so close to this little mouse or this squirrel," and you can immediately see by the shape of the head and how the hair is raised on the forehead that this animal is not okay. And this is why the photographer got so close. And the same with raptors. You can see how they keep the feathers, how alert they are, if they are sluggish or slow or, not really reacting to the world around them or the environment. Yeah, I think you can see that this animal, this bird is not okay. It's not at its best. It may be poisoned. It may be old or something, but you can tell.
Agitated. Yeah.
Well, it's agitated. You can see it. They for instance, raptors when they are at peace, they fluff the feathers. They raise the forehead. The feathers on the head. They look very round and almost like a cat. And when they are alert, and they're going for something, the feathers are pulled together. They get very sleek and they get very tense, and you can see, every cell in the animal is just ready for doing something. Yeah.
It's and how it's, I mean, you want to get inside their heads. How do you want to do that?
Well, tell you an example. I've been watching or studying rather urban goshawks in Helsinki now for about nearly 10 years.
Okay.
Urban, yes. So they're breeding in the park here.
Yeah. So just for the listeners, a goshawk is usually a forest living raptor, extremely fast. It is what can we say about it? It's
Well, it's in my opinion, it's next to the golden eagle, the goshawk. They are the most rapacious raptors.
Yeah.
They are real killers.
That's the shark of the woods.
For their size, they go for big animals, and the goshawk is so fast, and it's so. I mean, it's just like dynamite.
Yeah.
And the female weighs about 1.2, 1.3 kilos, and the male is just around 1 kilo, slightly under. So it's not a small bird. And I used to study them in the 70s in the forests around here where I live. And in those days, the goshawk was persecuted. It was shot legally. and they were extremely shy. So when I went to the nests to ring the chicks, I hardly ever saw the adults, the male and the female, because they were, as soon as they heard that humans are coming, they moved away from the nest. And I wanted to photograph them then, but it was impossible because they were so shy. And now, since say 2000, they started to come into human settlements, into villages, and mostly inside Helsinki, really.
Why do you
And
think that is, actually?
Helsinki is the capital of.
No. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's two explanations. One is they got protection in the middle of the 70s. So people were not allowed to shoot them anymore. And so they were left in peace, more or less. And the other thing is that with the forestry we're having in Finland, all the old forests are being cut down. Terrible pace now. So the goshawks don't have forests to build the nests in. And in the forests which still remain, there is not enough food for them. You know, all the big animals that they used to hunt are gone.
Yes.
And whereas the cities are full of food for them. There's pigeons, there is rats, there is thrushes, there's, jackdaws, magpies, crows, all sorts of medium-sized birds, which are just made for goshawks. So they lost.
It's a bit like how peregrines also adapt to cities.
Yeah, exactly the same. But we don't have the peregrines, we just have the goshawk.
Yeah.
And there's now maybe between
I see Jack going, peregrine. Peregrine is.
I'm making notes here. I'm going to Google them all later.
Okay. If you have questions, if it goes to Jack, you have to.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying, Mr. Forsman.
Yeah, so the population of these urban goshawks is now more than 50 pairs in a rather small restricted area.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I've been following, say, in the beginning, sort of a dozen of pairs, and now I cut it down to half a dozen because I want to know the individuals. And I know the males. I mean, I know grandpa, I know his son and his grandson. When they all return to start to breed somewhere, because these birds are being marked,
Right.
so I can know them individually.
So do they also migrate? Are they going?
No, they're staying. They're residents, so they stay in Helsinki around the year.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the young birds, which are raised during the summer, they have to leave because the parents won't tolerate them once they are fully grown in September. Usually August, September, they are kicked out from their home territory. They are flying around in the southern part of Finland trying to find their own territory. But during this work, I've sort of been able to get inside the head of a goshawk. So when I'm watching it when it's perched somewhere, I can see by its behavior that soon something is going to happen, and where it is going and what it is doing. It's been really interesting. I mean, I've spent hundreds of hours, even per year, at these territories, just, from morning till midday or from midday to the evening, just watching and following the male, because the female stays on the nest all the time. The male is doing all the hunting. So he hunts for himself, he hunts for the female, and then when the chicks hatch, he hunts for them too. So he hunts for the whole family.
Are they actually monogamous?
Well, this is interesting. Yes. You have one big goshawk researcher in Holland, in the Netherlands.
What's his name?
Bijlsman, Rob Bijlsman.
Yeah.
He knows everything about raptors in Holland. And I haven't been in touch with him for years now, but I wanted to ask if he knows of any cases where goshawks would have been polygamous, meaning that one male has more than one female, or a female has more than one male.
Yeah.
And actually, I have one male, which is called Rambo. Well, rest in peace, Rambo, because he's not with us anymore. I followed him for 7 years. through his best years of life. And then probably the bird flu took him 1 year ago in 21. And he had 2 females in 3 consecutive years. He raised 2 broods at the same time.
At the same time.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
And that is probably the first time in history that this has been proved. I photographed him at 2 nests with 2 different females, and both females raised chicks. And so he has been hunting for 2 families, actually.
You were busy.
He
How do
must
you-
have.
How do you follow birds through a city? I mean, are you on a bicycle or is it, they're up?
I'm
They can
walking.
go because they can
walking.
go into different places you can't go, and they're up above buildings. You lose track of them. I mean,
Follow them everywhere. And it's very rare, although the city is full of goshawks, it's very rare to see them actually hunting, actually going for a prey or to see or witness a kill. Because most of the time this happens maybe 1 kilometer from the nest, or, in somebody's backyard, or you can't get there. But sometimes they're hunting very close to the nest, and then you can see how this hunt actually happens. Because if you read the literature, it says that the goshawks don't hunt near the nest. And it's said that they leave the birds or animals around the nest for the chicks. When the chicks are fledged, they can sort of practice on the animals close to the nest. But I've seen several times the male goshawk going for a squirrel or a blackbird, usually
But
just
that's then,
just from the nests.
but in the city.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
could be a shift in behavior living in the city.
It could be, absolutely. There is so much food in the. I mean, blackbirds nowadays are everywhere. Every park is full of blackbirds.
Yeah.
And they are very popular among goshawks. And of course, in summer, you have the fledgling thrushes. We have fieldfares, redwings, and blackbirds breeding in the parks in the city.
Yeah.
And in early June or mid-June, the park is just full of these fledglings, which have just left the nest, but which are not capable of flying. You just go and pick back. You don't have to hunt. You just go and take them.
Yeah. I want to move on a bit on a different topic, which you are an expert about, and that's mold.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to raptors. Maybe for the listener, we first have to explain what mold is. Shall I do it, or
Go ahead,
you're the
please, yeah.
expert? So mold is that birds change their feathers because they how do you say it? They wear off.
Yeah, they wear. Yeah.
They wear. And they do this every year, and every species does that in a different way. For example, ducks do that basically at the same time. They go to a safe place somewhere in open water. They change their feathers. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Forsman.
Yeah. It's the flight feathers. I mean, the big wing feathers, they lose at one.
Yeah.
One.
So that means for example, ducks can't fly for a short period of time, so they have to be safe. Raptors, or let's put it like this, the bigger raptors, like the eagles, they do it actually constantly. And there's a very interesting thing, which is in your book. Mold is basically the key to identification and of raptors. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, for me, definitely.
Yeah, and also key to aging.
Yes, even more. Yeah.
Can you and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it true that you are actually the one who sort of found out how mold and aging and identification of raptors can be told by mold?
Well, yes and no. Of course.
Can you still follow, Jack?
I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
So there are always people who have come before us. And also in my case,
Yeah.
And this guy was a Swedish. He worked at the Naturhistoriska Riksmuseet, which is the Rijksmuseum of Sweden in Stockholm.
Yeah.
And I had tracked my first rough-legged buzzard in my life in 1975. I went to the museum to try and sort out, the age of the bird, because we have photographs of it, the age and the sex of the bird. If I could say anything more than that,
It's
it
a
was
rough-legged buck.
So I went to the museum, and where I had been going regularly, so they knew me there. And at this time, this Swedish guy, Carl Edelstam, was there looking at white-tailed eagles, skins of white-tailed, stuffed skins of white-tailed eagles. And he told me straight away that it was a young rough-legged buzzard. And then what he showed me, which was the most important thing, was how to go through the feathers in a wing. If you think of a museum specimen, it's like Egyptian king in a sarcophagus. The wings are like this, and you can't open anything. It's just like
yeah.
I don't know, like a
Statue.
Yes, exactly, because it's been dried.
Yeah.
But he showed me how to go through the wings, the feathers in a wing, one by one, so that you can check which feather, the condition of the different feathers.
So
And
what do the feathers tell us? Can you elaborate that?
Well, the thing is that in these big raptors, the feathers are so long, so they cannot grow out all the feathers in one go, because raptors need to fly. They cannot be like ducks or swans swimming on a lake and feeling happy. If they lose their ability to fly, they're dead. So they have to keep the flying ability through this molting period. And these large birds, eagles and vultures, have such long feathers, they can be 60, 70 centimeters, one feather. And it grows roughly at 1 centimeter per day. So just to replace one feather takes like 2 months. So they couldn't replace all the feathers in one season. And especially here in Northern Europe, where you have winters, you cannot molt during the winter. All the molting is done during the summer, half year. So from, say, May to October, something like that. So what they have done is that they just molt a few feathers per year, roughly half of the wing feathers they can manage. And this means that if you look at a wing, open a wing like this, you can see that there are feathers which are fresh, new ones from this season. And then there are old feathers which are worn and faded and look really, the condition is quite bad. So it's easy to tell this year's feathers from previous year's feathers. And various species molt them. All the eagles and vultures molt them more or less following the same sort of basic idea.
Yeah.
But of course, the golden eagles breeding in Spain have a longer summer than the golden eagles breeding in Scandinavia. So there are small geographical differences.
Yeah.
Basically, once you know the way how these feathers are replaced, you can say that, a juvenile, which was born this summer, has all the feathers are exactly the same age, because all the feathers were grown in the nest.
Yeah.
Whereas one bird that was born the year before has already replaced some feathers. And when you know where these feathers are supposed to be, you can say that, okay, this is 1 year old. And then the molt moves a little bit further on for the next generation.
Yeah.
And that's a 2-year-old bird. The molt fronts are in different places compared to the molt fronts on the birds from the previous year. So you can actually, in many species like the large vultures and eagles, you can tell up to 4 or 5 different age classes just based on
Feathers.
count fresh feather and old feathers and even older feathers.
How, you were just starting to get into that, I think. But how do you find something out like that? I mean, you must have taken then thousands of pictures
Well, there was no pictures in those days, mind you. There was no digital cameras and stuff like that. So, so what I did, I went to museums.
Yeah.
I went to Natural History Museum in London,
Yeah.
and I went to Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki, just for the raptors. And I went through, well, every single skin. I was not interested in juveniles because nothing is happening. They are not
No, no.
interested. So I was looking through all the others, and then I had a A4 sheet
Yeah.
with where I could mark down the condition of each feather in the wing and say, for instance, a white-tailed eagle has 10 primaries,
Yeah.
and 17 secondaries.
Okay.
And
Primary
also
to
mark down the condition of them.
I have to just for Jack and listeners. So primaries. So the wing is how do you say it?
It's like our arm
It's like our arm, and then the primaries are on the outside of the arm.
on the head.
On the hand.
Okay, yeah.
They are attached to the hand, actually, the primaries. And the secondaries are attached to the arm.
So that's just to this is a very, very technical. If you're a non-birder, you'll probably go like, what? But
now
I was sorry.
to the photography. Now we come to the photography part, because after this revolution of digital photography, for instance, when I'm out looking at the eagles now, I'm trying to photograph every individual, because now I can, from the photographs, look at these feathers, which are molted and which are retained old feathers. And I can age the birds just by the photographs. I don't have to catch them anymore or go to the museums.
Yeah. And why is aging so important?
Well, to me, this is an interesting question, I think, because if you look at all the migration hotspots today around the world, people are counting birds.
Yeah. So a migration hotspot. Sorry, just very quickly. There are certain geographical points on the globe where all migration comes together, and where you can see a lot of birds. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it's funneled. So, for instance, when you go from North America, birds fly to South America to winter, they pass the Panama. And Panama is very narrow. It's a narrow strip of land between two oceans. And all the birds are funneled over Panama. So you can have 1 million birds there in no time. And
because they don't want to cross open water.
They don't cross the ocean. They don't want to cross the sea, these big soaring birds. And in Europe, we have, we talk about Gibraltar, but basically it's Tarifa, which is the southernmost town in Spain. And it's only 14 kilometers across the Gibraltar Strait to Africa. That's one place. Another one goes across Sicily and Malta and down to Africa, or then around the Med through Istanbul and Israel, and the Middle East, and so forth. So at these places, people are counting these raptors year after year. And of course, Falsterbo in southern Sweden is also a hotspot like that. And and they count it. So they count the common buzzards, they count the honey buzzards, they count the short-tailed eagles, and so on. And what I had tried to, propose at these sites is that they should have at least one guy who is knowledgeable or has a good camera to photograph these birds, which come close enough so that they could separate the different age classes and the sexes of these birds, because it can be done by these books.
Yeah.
And in Sweden, this was done based on this, this book. I wrote it in Swedish in 1984. And this book was used at Falsterbo, and one guy made his PhD thesis on the raptor migration at Falsterbo, splitting up these migrating raptors into age classes and sexes. And he could see what I would like to see from other places, that juveniles migrate at a different time, from adults. And among adults, you may have males migrating at a different time from females, and you would get much more information. Now we're just looking at general figures. We saw 1 million common buzzards this year, and we saw 800,000 last year. So this could be just a wind factor or something affecting the numbers. It's nothing real. But if you know that this year of all common buzzards, 70% were juveniles, and last year only 30% were juveniles, you know that something has happened in the breeding area, that, you know, maybe it was a bad season for voles or something, but you get much, much more information.
So it's more than just, hey, nice to know that it's a juvenile or a second year golden eagle or whatever.
Yes.
You can actually tell how the population is doing as well.
And that is important nowadays. I think that's much more important than knowing that there was 1,000 sparrowhawks in one day and
Yeah.
100 the next day.
Yeah.
But if you know the sexes and the ages of the birds, then you can actually say something about the state of the population, at
Yes.
least much more than we can now.
Yeah. And also the direction in which it's going. For example, if you have 70% juveniles, you know, it has been a good year.
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
or which probably is more often happening the other way around. It has been a bad year.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is, they have, of course, at Falsterbo in Sweden, they've done these counts since the late 40s, I think, or something like that. So they have a very, very long series of results, more or less in the same way from year to year. And those show that, you know, several species are declining fast and steadily. Honey buzzard, rough-legged buzzard, and others are increasing, like, pallid harrier, of course, and peregrine falcon and so on. So there are losers and winners.
Yeah. And I think I know the answer, but could you name any reasons why? For example, why numbers are declining or going up for certain species?
Well, we know that rough-legged buzzards and hen harriers are coming down.
Yes.
And it is probably linked to the voles and the lemmings in northern Scandinavia. In the past, when I was a kid, and still when I was ringing in the 70s and 80s, there used to be a 3-4 year cycle. So we have a good year for voles and lemmings, and they're everywhere. And raptors breed and have like 5 or 6 chicks. And then the next year, the population of the voles comes down and even lower down, and you have a very bad year, and they're not breeding at all. But then again, after a few years, there will be a new peak, and they raise again big broods. But now, since the 90s, I think, in the 90s, this pattern broke up. It broke down, really. So there is no regular 3-4 year fluctuation. And they've noticed the same in North America, where they had regularly 10-year fluctuations in ptarmigan and snowshoe hare populations. Yeah. This affected the goshawks and golden eagles and so on.
Yeah.
And also this system has broken down. So they haven't had like proper goshawk migrations in North America for like 10 years or even more.
Yeah.
And this could be attributed to the climate change.
Yeah.
Because these small rodents, the voles and the lemmings, they need a thick layer of snow and steady conditions during the winter to cope. Yeah. And now we have the winter may come in November, but then it starts to rain, and it rains for 2 weeks, and the snow goes, and then it freezes, and all the tunnels are filled with water, and they freeze over, and then you get the snow. You know, it's coming and go in the winter, and this is not good for the small mammals.
Yeah, I find it very interesting to see your research in aging.
Yeah.
How that is connected in so many ways to, for example, so you can see how they're doing. That has to do with lack of food, which has to do with climate change. So it's so well. I find it very interesting to see to see it in the bigger picture. Simply, worrying, but
Yeah.
very interesting as well. How it's all connected. That's something for you, Jack. That also, every topic we talk about is just like the migrating, the molds, the aging, everything. These are all very small parts in this system we have. But if one of those things change, or the whole system goes corrupt.
Maybe that has to be for the song then. Maybe that could be
Yeah,
because we're
yeah,
thinking about that in the back of our minds about
yeah.
how to tie this all together, because it's such a huge subject. I mean,
It's massive. It's
Yeah.
massive, but it's very nice to have all these, words like just when we connect it to a song. By the way, sorry, but if you use words like peregrine, harrier, feather, molt, migration, these are all great words for songwriting.
yeah. What rhymes with malt? It's not my fault. It's
Not my fault. Whose fault? Yeah.
So, originally, when I wrote these books, I thought that I would have liked to see them as tools
Yes.
in ecological research, or so that people. I was hoping that the books would open the eyes for people to look more deeply into these problems.
Yeah.
I remember, for instance, in 1982 was a very good year for lemmings and voles in northern Finland. And I was up there ringing chicks, and the broods were like 5-6 chicks, and really record numbers. I ring myself that year, never ring more, not before or after. And in 83, we started to track raptors on migration here in southern Finland. So we had a station where we, following the American, their methods, we were trapping birds flying over. And that autumn, we trapped quite a lot of rough-legged buzzards.
Yeah.
How do you trap a bird flying over?
You can't tell it nowadays anymore.
Okay.
It's not allowed anymore. Well, we used live pigeons, but we had a leather jacket on them so that they wouldn't, be hurt by.
Oh, they look cool.
Come with the clothes, yeah. Anyway, that autumn 83, we trapped quite a few rough-legged buzzards, which hadn't been trapped in Finland really before, because there was no method of trapping them. And that year, almost every rough-legged buzzard was from the 82 contingent. So they were 1-year-old birds. It just shows that, if just our trapping result would have shown that 82 must have been a good breeding year, because so many 1-year-old birds turned up in 83.
Yeah.
And this is like the kind of results I would like to see from migration hotspots and ringing stations also.
Yeah. Just quick. For Jack, the migrating hotspots. Did you get that? Because that's quite essential.
Where they go through like Panama, and because of the
Yeah, exactly. So
you
can see
a large area.
There's certain points you can actually point out on the map, knowing if the weather is right. This is where the birds are going to cross.
That'd be a great holiday destination for you, yeah.
That's not just for us, for many. So if you would, for example, Falsterbo, which is the southern tip of Sweden.
Yeah.
Well, the next stop is Denmark, but they want to cross as little water as possible because it's not safe. So if you stand there, look up, you'd see everything fly over because they're just forced into this funnel. I just wanted to make sure you got that.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry, Mr. Forsman.
Nothing. Nice explanations.
Sorry.
Clear. It's nice to hear good and clear explanations.
Oh, thank you. I must admit, I'm also constantly thinking, oh shit, I hope I don't say anything extremely stupid.
No, no.
Um, well, actually, I had one last question, but well, no, I can talk to you for hours, I must admit. But actually, there was a thing which I was interested in. What do you think we can learn from a species like raptors, from a golden eagle? But you already sort of answered that. What is it? It's a bit vague, that question. I know. I understand.
Yeah. But I think many of the raptor species are, I don't know the exact term in English, but talking about like an umbrella species.
Yeah.
So if something happens to this species, it tells that something has happened to the other species below it.
Yeah.
So raptors are relying on, well, pristine forest in the case of goshawks, or certain animals.
Yeah.
Like the rough-legged buzzards or the golden eagle here, or so if we can see changes in the populations of these raptors, we should be concerned because there's something wrong. Something is not right.
Yeah.
Like I have a problem here in Finland with the golden eagles, because most of the golden eagles I see at the breeding sites, or I see pictures of at the breeding sites, are not adult birds.
Right.
And
wait a second. Most of the golden eagles you see at breeding sites are not adult birds, so they're not breeding.
No, they do breed, but I'm talking about birds with white patches. An adult golden eagle is just basically dark.
Yeah.
And young birds have these big white flashes in the primaries.
Yeah.
And when you go to these nests, you often see one or both birds showing still quite a lot of white in the wings. And this is not how it should be. So in a steady population, the bird should be adults, because it's a long-lived bird. It can live 30 years or more. So they should be old birds. But why are they not old birds? Because the old birds are shot. They are killed illegally. Up in the northern part of Finland, there's a conflict between the people who own the reindeers and golden eagles, because golden eagles take reindeer calves. And the same problem is in Norway and Sweden as well, in the northern parts, where we have reindeer husbandry. The reindeer husbandry and golden eagles don't go together.
No. An eagle could take down a whole reindeer.
Yes. I mean, young reindeers, there are documented cases of golden eagles killing in October a young reindeer, which by then weighs about 20 or 30 kilos.
Wow.
So it's like a big dog, or, well, heavier than a big dog. So a golden eagle, as I told you, it's a real killer. It is. Usually they eat hares and grouse, like black grouse or capercaillie, which capercaillie in itself can weigh 5-6 kilos. But then small reindeer calves, when they're born in spring, early spring, often on the snow, and they can be very bad shape, and they would probably die just from the cold or because of they're in bad condition. The golden eagles go for these. And so they are not liked. And this is my explanation to why we have so many non-adult golden eagles in the breeding population. And these are inexperienced birds, so they don't raise chicks like adults would do. They're inexperienced hunters, so they can't feed the chicks. So the population is not doing well. I mean, they can say that they have 200 breeding pairs, but this is not the truth. This is not
this is something new to me. And I'm intrigued by it, because when is, for example, golden eagle, when is it ready to mate, and when is it because I would expect them to be sexually active by the time they're adult?
No, much sooner. Like
Okay.
in Holland, you have white-tailed eagles now.
Yeah.
And they can start. They form pairs usually already when they are 2 or 3 years old.
Okay.
But the success is very, very low.
Low.
They may build a nest, but they can't maybe they lay eggs, maybe not. They can't incubate them properly. Even if the egg hatches, they can't take care of the chicks and so on.
So it is in a way normal behavior, except for the fact that they're they're not successful.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing should be that, golden eagles can live to up to 30 years or more. So, of course, when they are, say, about 10 years old, they are experienced, they're adults,
Yeah.
and they look like adults. And that's how they should be.
Yeah.
And there is a study actually from Scotland, 2 different populations of golden eagles. One golden eagle population was in an area where they are managing the grouse moors for shooting. It's a big thing in Scotland to go out to the moors and shoot grouse.
Yeah.
And big money involved. And these gamekeepers, they get rid of everything, foxes, ravens, eagles, harriers, everything that's intruding on these grouse moors. And then there is another area which has red deer.
Yeah.
Which the eagle doesn't go on. So the eagles are left alone in that area. And they were comparing these 2 populations. And in the red deer area, the golden eagles were adults. All the adults, they were marked birds.
Yeah.
They were alone. Whereas in the grouse area, they were immature birds, like our Finnish birds, with white flashes in the wings. Inexperienced birds.
So it happens everywhere.
Well, at least in these places, always when there is a conflict between an animal and us humans, we take the right in our hands and decide how this be dealt with.
And that's also where we come back to the non-human rights movement, actually, where this is, I think, actually one of the biggest problems in the fight we have for biodiversity and climate change is that we have the knowledge, we have the financial means, we have all the techniques, but the biggest step we have to take is a philosophical, that we have to, like you said, we decide for the golden eagles whether to live or not, and where they live or not. And I think this should be at the base of the whole, how do you say it, crisis we're facing. That this is a major philosophical change we should have throughout the whole humanity, actually. Anyways,
the saying, money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah.
And I think this is the ultimate reason for all this that's happening on the planet just now. It's greed.
Yes.
It's greed. It's money. Money talks, and nothing is enough.
Yeah.
No matter how much money you have, you always want more.
Yes.
And this is what cuts down the forests. This is what takes down the eagles from the sky. This is what kills the wolves and the brown bears and the lynxes.
Yeah.
It's conflicts, and often there's money behind.
Nevertheless, I want to try to, because I don't know, Jack, how time wise. Okay.
All good, yeah, as long as you need.
Okay, because I have a little bit of time frame with 3 screaming kids at home. So, would you call yourself hopeful, or optimistic, or pessimistic, or how do you see the future?
I have to say I'm very pessimistic. I've been a lot to Africa.
Yeah.
40, 50 times down to sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
And just looking at the situation and the life of the humans there, makes me very, very worried.
Yeah.
That's one part. And the other part is this greed I'm talking about in Europe and in the so-called civilized world.
Yeah.
That nothing is enough, and that we're stripping the globe from, everything that's worth money. Anything that you can sell is for sale.
Yeah.
And I can't see that the humanity would change in this respect. So I hate to say, but it's I can't be optimistic.
No. It's
So
good
it's
you said.
Bad song then. So we're going for minor key here.
No, but I mean, I asked this question knowing this would probably be your answer, and for myself, I want to be very optimistic.
You have to be because of your age.
And I have to be because of my age.
Yeah.
But well, and also I think I have to be because I don't want to sit around and mope. And I'm not saying you're sitting around and mope, not at all. But I have to be optimistic because it keeps me going. Because it keeps me, it keeps me, people will listen to this podcast and think, hey, I never knew this about raptors or birds or anything. They will be interested and they'll hopefully they'll change their opinions about it a little bit, or listening through music or whatever, and involved in all kinds of projects. But I know I am a bit naive. And it's people want to hear the hopeful stuff.
Of course.
People also have to.
Well,
sorry?
Jack can cut out all these.
Yeah. No, but I think it's also important to see the real picture.
Well, I guess the sadness comes from you seeing the change, because you've, if you go out there today and you see a golden eagle, it's beautiful, it's stunning, but then you've seen the whole change. You've been to Africa so many times and you've seen how it could be. So you know how it should be.
Yeah. Well, and also it's in the details. Once you're more and more informed, the thing you just told about the golden eagles, that the young birds are now in charge of the new generation, which they're not capable of doing. A lot of people would not see that. You see that.
Yeah. And thinking of Africa, I've been to Ethiopia about 16 or 17 times during 20 years.
Yeah.
And just looking at the change in one country in Africa, okay, that's one of the countries with the biggest population and the population growth also.
Yeah.
Just comparing the changes from 1 year to the next for another 2 years, when Chinese come in and Indian come in and big money from the world comes in and changes everything, the whole lifestyle of the country.
Yeah.
It's so sad. I can't go back there anymore.
Yeah.
And or have disappeared, and not because of people needing firewood, but because of the government coming in illegally and cutting, and the money. It's the money is going into private pockets.
But also in Finland, no, all the forest management comes from Finland. All the ideas people have of many forests are managed by Finnish companies and all around the world, I think. And
it's really sad, and I'm ashamed of the state of my own country. But there is, of course, there is opposition against all this. But again, it's money talks, and they're building bigger factories. Yeah.
Well, on that happy note,
Give it to the raptors.
Yeah.
Give it to the raptors.
I think I have asked you a lot of questions, and I could talk to you for hours. And I wish
we can meet somewhere.
maybe we should. I would I would love to. You told me about your hideout on that hill where the golden eagles fly by. Well, that sounds like the most romantic place I want to. There is on the planet. But I really want to thank you for taking your time
Yeah.
and elaborating on a bit of your past and a bit of your knowledge and a bit of your opinion. And it has been an absolute honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm delighted to have been, if I've been to any help.
Absolutely. Even if the song is shit, I had a great day.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not going to be a shit song.
Well, I've had a good time watching the bird. I'm watching the watchers here. So
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. If you're not into bird watching or birds or
bird watcher
nature-
watching is now a new sport. I
yeah,
just invented it.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world. No, but like I said in the beginning, once you there's so much more behind a
Yeah,
bird. There's
No,
a
I'm really.
whole life, a whole world behind it.
I'm inspired. And if people want to spot the elusive Dick Forsman, are you doing any other podcasts, or are you have an Instagram? How can people follow you? Get more.
I'd rather stay mythical and hiding.
Well, people, if they want to know more about Dick Forsman, they should buy his books. So I'm just gonna do some advertising for you.
Yeah.
The flight identification of raptors. That's I would say that's a bit next level birding, but the one before raptors of Europe and the Middle East is an amazing introduction to all the raptors we have here in Europe, I would say. So to all who is to whom is concerned, no, how do you say it? To all who is to
Everyone interested. Yeah, whoever
to
wants.
everyone interested. And I'm gonna say it out loud, Mr. Forsman. I hope you agree with this. Buy his shit.
Thank you, Ruben.
And is there another book you're working on?
Well, I'm definitely going to write something on these goshawks, which I know individually, and their family trees and the whole story. And there's a lot of good stories around those. And as I said, I've been a lot to Africa, and I think something needs to be done about the identification of African raptors. And I've been working on this for years, and now it's time to put pen to paper. And finally, I've been writing bits and pieces on it for years, but
It's going to be a bit thicker than this one, I think.
no. It's going to be something that you can put in your pocket when you go to Africa.
Oh, serious?
And also, this one that you're showing, you can get on your phone, on your smartphone. You can get
Serious?
Yes.
It's an app now.
Yeah. Well, it's not an app, but it's like you can get a Kindle version, or it's here. I don't know.
I can't see it. Oh, yeah. That's brilliant. So I don't have to carry this around all the time.
And it's better. What is better with this version? I don't know. Can you?
Yeah.
You can actually zoom in the picture and
Oh,
look at details, which you can't do.
that's amazing. Can you show that picture once more? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Don't say what it is.
Very good. There. Oh, this is just the underwing. So
I can't a little bit more up. Oh God, yeah, those harriers is the hardest. I would say no, don't say it.
No, I don't say.
Can you turn it a little bit?
Well, I get the glare from the lights.
Okay.
This. Okay.
But I don't see a color. I do see a color. Then I would say a pallid.
Right. Don't
Juvenile,
change
juvenile pallid.
It is an adult female pellet.
Oh, it's the adult female. Oh, sorry. I thought it was a.
Streaks on the belly.
Oh, sorry. I
But it's
thought it
hard
was
to see.
juvenile.
I mean, it's difficult conditions. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Good.
I'm gonna
Thanks.
give you that one.
Thanks for saying it.
But Ruben, very good.
All right.
What about a documentary? That could be an idea as well. I know Ruben's just made a fantastic documentary. I'm going to send you the link after the show, and
Oh yeah.
if you could get together
right.
for a follow up.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be lovely.
But then we should go to southern Spain in Tarifa, because the food is excellent, the coffee is excellent, the wine is excellent, and the bird is superb.
I let's shake hands on that. I'm quite sure my girlfriend and my 3 kids will understand.
Along.
Oh yeah, definitely. Actually, my middle one, my 6-year-old, he actually, I'll show you. One day I opened it. This was a couple of years ago. One day I opened it, and I saw all these, and I was like, "What?" But they actually, my middle one, 6-year-old, he's going already through this book. It's amazing.
Great.
That's great.
That's great.
So I'd love to join you there.
Yeah.
So
Well, keep in touch.
please, let's Jack, do
Yeah, I'll
magic.
connect you up. Yeah.
Please do.
Well, this is wonderful. Thanks so much, Dick. It was really enjoyed this.
Well, that's
So-
it.
So did I.
All right,
Uh,
I'll stay on the call with you for a minute, Ruben, just to
Okay.
wrap
I'll
it up.
drop them off.
All right. Cool.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Cheers.
guys. Cheers.
Oh, well, thanks, Ruben, so much. Your enthusiasm really made that for me. If I was just chatting to him by myself, you kind of carried me into that, and I rode your wave.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It was. I loved it. I could have. I'm a bit speechless. I want to be him.
Well,
You know?
I'm sure he's delighted. He'd like to take you on one of his trips.
Yeah.
And you know, the good thing about going with a guy like that is they know all the best coffee stops. They know all they've done.
Yeah.
You know, as like I said, where the best wine is. He's kind of, he rounded off the edges of every trip. So you couldn't pay for a guide like that. So I'll definitely hook you up. Yeah.
No, it was an absolute delight.
Yeah.
So
And
thank
then-
you so much.
Well, we have to do a song now. You're inspired, and
Yeah. So what's the plan for that?
well, just usually I kind of go away myself and write something, and then you write something. I'll send it to you. You can use it as inspiration. You can maybe take a melody line from it or a bit of a chorus. And then if you come up with something, send it back and forth. We can always do like a co-write session on Zoom again if we need to do something, and then we can just let it grow together. And I've got a production team here as well. We can add on some instrumentation, and I mean, I love your sound, so
Well,
it'd be nice to add something.
it would be great.
Brilliant.
Let's do it.
All right.
So I'll await your. So we should start ping ponging.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's best to do it now when you're fresh. I mean, obviously you've got to go to your kids now, but
Yeah.
You're still going to stay high for a few days from this, so I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jack, for having me.
My pleasure.
Oh shit, they're calling already.
Beautiful ending. Okay, Ruben,
I'll see you.
you take care.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, we can't soar above this or migrate away, just letting on the land with our wings. We're defeated and deceived, an outcome out of sight, lost without non-human rights, lost without non-human rights. Oh, where the eagles live, over the rim of a far-long cliff, where I lay on my belly and look over the edge, so I could get a glimpse of what eagles have, so I could get a glimpse inside an eagle's head. wish I could get up there and glide through the sky as chaos plays out on the ground, where the money does the talking, but could it be contrite? Can it say non-human right? Can it say non-human right? Oh, where the eagles live, over the rim of a fallen cliff, where I lay on my belly and look over the edge, so I could get a glimpse of what eagles have, so I could get a glimpse inside an eagle's head. More than philosophical, upgrade for us all, replace positions we've been claiming for so long. It's a necessary call, an unexpected rule of law. Would otherwise go on. Oh, where the eagles live, over the rim of a fallen cliff, where I lay on my belly and look over the edge, so I could get a glimpse of what eagles have, so I could get a glimpse inside an eagle's head. Inside an eagle's
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the song and the episode. The song will be released next week. It will be available on all streaming platforms, but you can already pre-save. Please support the artists by following them on social media and adding the song to any playlists you have. This is a completely free show, and you've listened this far, so I'd really appreciate it if you could pay us back by clicking like and subscribe. And follow at Podsongs on social media platforms, or subscribe to the newsletter at podsongs.com for special updates. Or just tell the next person you see about this amazing show where musicians interview their idols and write a song about them. The songs are available for download from the Podsongs website as well, which pays a lot more than the 0.00 whatever we get from Spotify. You can also email me at jack@podsongs.com to give feedback, suggest an artist, and guest combos you'd like to hear, or just say hello. We're a listener-supported show, and I'd love to hear from you. A final thanks to my researchers, Dori Verbo and Rosa Marino, my producer, Maurizio Sanicola of Goldmine Records, and musicians Massimino Vozza and Luigi Falcione. The next episode will be out soon. In the meantime, you can listen to more amazing episodes in the archives. Until then, have a great day.